reflecting on my racial and cultural autobiography for CI 151 with Dr. Lopez. My name's William Thomas. I hope you appreciate me coming to you in this format rather than writing to you or giving you the classic PowerPoint presentation. I was born here in Fresno, California in 1986, actually on this day, December 17th. It's been 32 years now, and I was born in an apartment by midwife on somewhere near the corners of Blackstone and Ashland. I don't remember or know the name of the apartment complex, but I guess I could easily just go drive down there and find out, which I should. I know exactly where it is. Since then, race and ethnicity has been evident in my daily life. And how else can I say this? Through my neighbors, through my family, through my extended family, and then now through my immediate family, through my spouse and my children. It really is quite an amazing thing when you start to think how connected we really all are. I definitely think having that perspective influences the way that I look at others, but maybe in a more positive way. I've always felt that things were connected, the systems of the earth as well as our emotional selves, our physical beings, what we mean to accomplish. I don't think everybody's like that. I hope to change the minds of those people, just as I think you are, why you're in this class or why you might be teaching this class. I don't think that it's necessarily something I inherited culturally from any one race, but maybe just a perspective I individually adopted through and constructed through my own experiences, and I'll touch on that again. Basis of constructivism, and I think mainly, I guess, that we all build our understanding and our knowledge off of that basic concept, that it's constructed through a series of experiences, but mainly for underrepresented, underserved, underappreciated, marginalized races, at least in this country. Those experiences have been negative, especially in schooling. So the purpose of this is to make us aware and help change that and make those experiences positive for those students and turn that around, especially if their experiences were made bad by, unfortunately, others that come from cultural backgrounds that might be identified with mine, even though that may not necessarily be my cultural background. We all are put into certain categories. We all have biases, and that's a natural brain mechanism, a cognitive mechanism that we have to fight to work against if we're really going to build solidarity between peoples. And I really believe that. Looking back at my high school experience now after this course is definitely more difficult. I have to keep in mind now the different perspectives that we've gained through the course reading, particularly race, ethnicity, and education that mentions it's essential to recognize Eurocentric bias in the classroom. And I believe that where I did go to high school was very supportive of that. Unfortunately, not until after I graduated do I recognize that there were very few racial minorities on campus, and the systems in place on campus were built to marginalize those groups. Although I did find opportunities to expand on my multiculturalism that I was experiencing at my personal life outside of school, at home, and in my community. But the school site was definitely not supportive of that. Though we did talk about those items, it wasn't represented in the student body or in the curriculum that we were practicing. On this school site in particular, there was definitely a lack of cultural diversity. I can remember specifically that there was only like one or two groups that were either African American or Hispanic or Arab. Even though we did have like the cultural food fairs and whatnot, there were Hmong students on campus. Mostly was probably the most largely represented minority group on campus. There wasn't much more outside of that. We did do the cultural fair and cultural talent show, and I think that was actually brought about because of the lack of diversity on campus. There was a push by student leadership that were from those particular cultures or races that felt that those needed to be more represented on campus, and I love that. I appreciated that because it gave us more activities and it gave us more exposure as well through those activities, hands-on, participating, listening, dancing, singing. It was great. But I am saddened that there wasn't more of that, and that the structure of the school didn't always support that, and that these students had to really stand up and make a voice for themselves. But I am glad that it's now opened the door. I'm excited to go back to that campus now and see if things have changed, see how diverse the student body is now. At the time, it was definitely a benefit, I think, to be of the background that I am. Definitely in a school system like that, I think I was given more trust, a little more leeway as far as behavioral issues. When I was younger, I was suspended here and there. I'd been given a lot of referrals. Not so much in high school, but I'm wondering if maybe I should have. Could that have been a benefit? Maybe that was not a benefit. Maybe I would have benefited more in my personal life from actually having those consequences. What personal experiences I've had in my life have definitely influenced and still do influence how I interact with the students in the classroom and the guidelines that I put in place for some assignments, as well as just how I handle them on the everyday and how I field their personal experiences they're bringing to the classroom every day, and then how do we incorporate that into the greater learning for the classroom, but then also for that student. Everybody learns differently every day, so I want to make sure that I can accommodate the content and whatever we're doing for each one of those students, regardless of race, gender, identity, whatever it is. We want to make sure that they're learning. I'll be 100% honest. I don't feel comfortable sharing too much personal detail, not just on video, but in paper. In all reality, we are strangers, and I do understand that for the necessity of the assignment, we do share some personal aspects of our lives, but some stuff is meant to be left confidential and ultimately is shared with other professors and other classmates, and I'm not necessarily comfortable with that. But what I will share about my life is that I've just had a multitude of friends from a multitude of backgrounds, and in my own experiences, I've both been in trouble and rewarded. And I always try to reflect back on the entire spectrum of my experiences when working with anybody. I think that's important, to be flexible and to be able to call on all of your experiences culminating from birth to that moment. So many things are impacting the students these days, particularly in such a high-paced, technologically advanced society. The expectations are high. The rate of turnover is fast, and these students are expected to be digitally literate, as well as informed. What we're asking them of the content. I wasn't in the class yet when you did the Understanding the Students You Serve activity. I actually was enrolled in another CI 151 class that dissolved about 5 weeks into the semester and got moved into this class. So I'm not up to speed, or I don't know the particulars on that assignment. But I do know, because I do have children of my own, and then from the student teaching and just being aware that this day and age is challenging for young learners. And like I said, a lot of that has to do with the requirements and the use of technology, and then the integration of their social life into that. So one of the questions was, how do relevant social factors find expression in your students' learning experiences? More so now than ever, I think, because those social factors can leak in through the tools you're using for educational technology, most commonly the laptop or your smartphone. So those are one of I think that is the main issue as far as that's concerned, how social factor impacting these students at school. But other than that, economic factors, life is generally tough, and it's hard for a lot of the parents of learners in public schools to have enough money just to stay fed and warm, and to eliminate some of those external worries, so these students can just come to school focused on, ready to absorb whatever new knowledge we're prepared to give them. So I do think addressing those two things, having these students prepared at home and having the right materials and support, as well as protecting and guiding the use of technology and how much of the social life is integrated into that is important. Race, ethnicity, culture, schooling experiences, these can all inform your viewpoints and how you see the educational system. For me, I don't always necessarily see how my race or culture plays into those. Mostly it's my educational experiences that move along how I interpret and understand my students' backgrounds and perspectives. I've never necessarily filtered information that way, based off visual differences, but definitely off of socioeconomic experiences, home life experiences, and I do definitely take those into consideration. But when in the classroom, I think it is important to definitely take into consideration those racial and ethnic cultural experiences, as Django Paris brings up in his paper, and I loved, that's probably my favorite reading of the semester, just because how clear and straightforward it was in recognizing just the shortcomings of previous writings. The author's name is not coming to me right away, and we'll look at it here at the end, and you can see from the list. But he says that culturally relevant pedagogy doesn't go far enough. That in fact it has to be sustaining, and I like that, and I like the critical approach that goes hand in hand with that, and from the perspective of the educator, that should be embraced, especially from someone, an educator whose background culturally or racially has been on the other side of that, the oppressor. So I think it holds even more weight in the classroom when that perspective's embraced, and I definitely want to be one to do that and encourage colleagues to do that. I think it takes reflection and some humility, but overall it's the best way to communicate with your students that you have their learning and their well-being at interest, at genuine interest. And that's really important when you're talking about wanting to teach them and wanting them to learn. Guys, before we head into the final overview, I just want to say thanks for sitting in and listening to me. I know sometimes it can kind of drag out while I'm thinking about my thoughts, but I want to be genuinely thorough and just give you a little bit of insight into my reflection. I know it's not necessarily an exact overview of what was on the paper in the biography, but that is, again, at the end listed here for you to look at if you want to read that for yourself. Otherwise, I hope this was just a good opportunity for you to get to know me. So let's move into the final reflection, and I'll let you go for the evening. Before I leave you, I wanted to touch on the final reflection, just on the course content, the method of delivery, and just my farewell. All the readings and the assignment, this final assignment together, really helped me better understand where I came from, and honestly the different perspectives and cultures that have added on to my life's experience and provided me with just a rich experience all the way around. I think this is particularly true when talking about the experiences I had with my stepdad and his Japanese culture and how that integrated into my life. I mean, the role he took in raising me had a direct effect on the things that I adopted into my own life and in creating my own personal culture, which every individual does. Every individual constructs meaning out of their life from the experiences that they have that are individual to them. And I don't think the perspectives of any two are 100% identical. Now, as for reflection on the format of the class, respectively, I don't think that the online format is the best for covering this subject and the content. I think it is nice to be able to reflect on the readings, but I think the personable interaction, the one-on-one, the face-to-face, the in-class discussions on the topic are really what makes something like this more memorable and a little more deep, and just allows the learner to walk away with a little more than the knowledge in the reading, but more of an experience. I did enjoy the readings. Like I said, of course it's convenient to be able to read those at home and do these sort of reflections, but maybe just participating in a classroom discussion live would also achieve the same goal. So again, I do like the online format for the purpose of the convenience and the ability to do the work when it fits with our schedule. But I do feel like there's a component missing with the face-to-face and just being able to have the diversity in the classroom right there in front of you when that's what we're talking about. So that's that. All right, so that's it for the cumulative final and the reflection of my biography. I hope you enjoyed this style of the presentation. I did attach a copy of the document to the end of this video, so if you wanted to pause and scroll through it again and take a look at it yourself, you're more than welcome to do that. Thanks for joining me, and it's been a pleasure this semester. I'm very happy to be moving on. Next semester is my last, and I'm happy to have shared these moments with you and these personal experiences as well with you. Thank you.